Peace, 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 good people. Salute, salute everyone. Hopefully, hopefully my little settings are good. I think that I am. Salute, peace, and infinite love to the good family. Hope everybody is doing well. Um, let's see what we got here. Can you guys hear me all right? Of course, this is me still very much new with my new mic. Hopefully, you guys can, hear me okay. Hopefully, I'm audible. Um, yeah, I'm looking good on my end. Let's see if we got some good family up in here. You guys can hear me? All right, I see some nines coming in. Salute to the good family. Salute to the good family. Let me scroll up and see who we got in the building so that we can set this off the right way. Okay. I like to salute my people as they make their way in. Always wonderful to see you guys. I hope everybody is well, right? So let's get this started. Let's see who we got in the building. Infinite love to the good family. All right. Oh my goodness, we got the king, Patrice X30 in the building. First up, okay, he says much love to, hold up, let me make my screen much brighter. Patrice says much love to the one and only Sugar Free, aka Marimba Ani Jr., aka Sugar Free Sade. Okay. I like that. I like that. I absolutely love that. You know, those two ladies happen to be, huge pillars for me. Okay. Intellectually, the Marimba Ani herself, the Queen Mother. And of course, the beautiful Queen Sade is one of my muses and has been since I was a little girl. So definitely appreciate the compliment to the King Patrice. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, King. Thank you so much for gracing today's discussion with your presence. Always lovely to see you. We got the richest one in the building. He's asking us, we live? You know what time it is, King? Do you really got to ask? Okay. The richest one. You know you ain't got to ask. All right. You know how we coming. Sundays at 5:30, right? Salute to you, by the way. Lovely to see you. Thank you for joining. Oh my goodness. We got the king and the coach. Hudson, my number one comrade in the building. We got to salute the coach properly when he comes in the building, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. That is my number one comrade, not my number two, but the number one. He says, salute to the queen of boxing media, my number one comrade, the beautiful Sugarfreemars. Thank you so much, King. I appreciate all of the wonderful words and the energy that you bring. Wonderful to see you, King. Who else we got in the building? Salute to my beautiful sister, Cammy Cam. Convos with Cam, that is. In the building, she says, my beautiful sis. That's our thing. That's our thing. We just say that to each other whenever we see each other, right? My name is not my name. She doesn't call me Sugar Free. I don't call her Cammy. It's just beautiful sis on site when we see each other. Salute to my beautiful sis in the building. Lovely to see you. Oh my goodness, we got the Queen Mama Love, Tequila Fields in the building. She says, salute Sugarfreemars, the warrior queen. Peace and love to my beautiful child of love. Infinite love to you. Always beautiful Mama Love, as I call you. Okay. Thank you so much for gracing the page and the chat and today's discussion. It's always a beautiful experience having your presence, with us when we are discussing this boxing stuff that we love so much. Peace and infinite blessings to my twin, the king, the lovely King Daryl Anderson. He says, salute to the beautiful queen, aka my twin, Sugar Free. Salute to the rest of the kings and the queens in the chat. All right, King Daryl, that's my twin. Always 10 toes, always with the love, always on deck and ready for some good old boxing talk. Infinite blessings to my twin Daryl. As always, you know it ain't nothing new. You know what I mean? Oh my goodness, we got the G himself in the building. G McCall, that is. He says, salute, queen. Peace to you, king. Lovely to see you. We got the king, Vonnie, with his purple heart. And that's my favorite color too, Vonnie. So talk to me nice, okay? Vonnie is talking to me nice with my favorite color. Thank you so much, King Vonnie. I appreciate your presence. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hold up. And we got a super chat to kick us off, to set the mood and the tone right this Sunday from Glenn Mickens. Heavy with the support for the channel. Thank you so much, King, for the support that you show. I appreciate the support. Thank you very, very much. And let's see what we got here. As you guys make your way in. Kind of a chill Sunday. First of all, I guess I could preface by hoping and wishing that you all had a good week this past week, of course. Mine was very, very relaxing. I always try to take my time to relax, but this week was kind of strangely relaxing in a good way. That I got a lot of me time, a lot of ruminating, right, on my own little personal matters, but in a good way, ruminating about the things that I want to call, the things that I want to clear out, ruminating upon goals. Um, I'm chilling right now. I got my incense lit. I got my rose tea over here. I'm feeling good, y'all. I can't front. I'm feeling quite good. Okay. Hope everybody had a good weekend as well. Of course, we had an interesting fight weekend that we are absolutely going to get into. In fact, I made sure to focus my entire objective of today's discussion principally on this fight um, that took place last evening with, of course, the gentleman on your screen, Boots Ennis, right? The talk of the town. But I do not know um, if it's in a good way, as far as I'm concerned. At least from what I have been gauging with from a lot of people, at least within the conscious boxing space and realm, a lot of people feel quite tepid about um, just Boots in general, as a whole. I think a lot of people have some questions, and I think that these questions are not far-fetched at all. If I'm going to be, absolutely honest, I think that a lot of these questions are right on time, and I think that the questions that people seem to be raising um are kind of working in tandem with a larger question that has kind of been um umbrellaing, if you will, over the boxing landscape as a whole, as far as what it is that these fighters are doing, their trajectory, what is the objective and the aim? Because there seems to be I don't know, a prevailing aimlessness that we always tap into to one degree or another each week, right? Where I find that, you know, we are asking similar questions, even though the range of fighters may differ or vary. The question remains the same. The underlining question is seems to be being applied to different fighters, right? There is a common denominator, however, and now here we are, bringing these types of questions and levels of interrogation, inspection, and reconnaissance to Boots, right? And Boots has been under all types of reconnaissance, as we know, you know, throughout the whole year. Real talk. A lot of people have been scrutinizing him a little bit more closely, putting drawing a fine comb, if you will, um, in matters concerning Boots and his movements or lack of movements or whatever it is that you want to call it. And it's definitely, my twin says, Def Comedy Jam boxing last night. I laughed my ass off, child. I was so through Daryl, I couldn't even laugh, son. Real talk. Okay. And I'm going to tell you why in just a bit. But that I agree with you to a large degree, though, twin, because it really is comedy. When you look at it, that's really what we got. It wasn't a long-winded joke, but it certainly was laughable. The fact that it even, happened. The fact that we got what we got was what was laughable to me. So, I feel you on that, twin. Now, here we are again. Having to unveil the fuckery. Real talk, if I'm going to be blunt, right? Here we are again, with we don't even need a magnifying glass because the moves that we are seeing are so blatantly irresponsible, so blatantly careless that it's like, well, you motherfuckers ain't even trying to put up a guise anymore, right? The guise is so weak and see-through that it's not even a guise at all. These people are not even out here trying in the boxing world, it seems to me. You understand? Now let's get into this, good people. You know, Boots Ennis, he got the first round knockout, as we all know. But you know, I feel deflated, for lack of a better word. I am nowhere near impressed. Nowhere near impressed with the first round stoppage that Boots managed to acquire last evening in his fight. I think that this is the first time, beautiful people, that, how do I want to say this? I think this is the first time that I've seen a fight, right, of a fighter that I overwhelmingly support and back, but where I'm totally disconnected from the victory. How the hell did that happen, ladies and gentlemen? How am I so lackluster about a victory of one of my favorite current standing fighters? But that's absolutely the position that I find myself in right now in the aftermath of this fight. Isn't a victory normally supposed to be glorified, brothers and sisters? Or am I tripping? Right? Isn't a victory ordinarily what would have the boxing world clamoring to see, clamoring to replay, salivating over, and being, absolutely we're taken by somebody's victory? Somehow, last night's fight left me nothing short of absolutely deflated. How do I walk away from a victory of one of my favorite fighters feeling bereft? Bereft. It's crazy to me when I think about that. I got no feeling whatsoever about no level of exaltation, no feelings, no celebratory feeling, nothing. Absolutely nothing. I had no feeling whatever, good people. Not a morsel of excitement, no pride, no wonderment, none of that. You know what I'm saying? And this is because, I went into this fight with the absolute notion that if Boots Ennis did not go into that ring and absolutely demolish Lima Bean, he would be considered a laughingstock, not only to the larger boxing community, but most importantly, to me. To me, as his supporter. He would have been a laughingstock to me. And I'm 10 toes with this young king. And you know what? That's not a position that I normally, relegate a fighter to, right? That's not something I won't necessarily, relegate fighters to that particular position. There has to be some type of extreme case at hand that would have me opt for that, right? Because of course I respect fighters, and certainly the fighters that I am vehemently in support of, right? So there would have to be something extreme for me to push you off into that particular type of corner and put that jacket on you, right? But it's just, I'm astounded as I sit here because I'm thinking about it like I got absolutely nothing out of this fight. Nothing. Absolutely nothing, you guys. First round knockout or not, nothing. Nothing was gained for me as a fight fan. And that is very, 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 very curious and weird. I got a weird feeling as I'm sitting here talking to you guys about this. What's interesting to me, you guys, is that, like I said earlier, victories are to be celebrated. Victories are supposed to announce one's arrival to the world, right? Victories are, a means to acclaim and affirm the solidification of one's position. Facts or no, right? That's what victories do. That's what they bring and breed. Why is it that this was not the case for Boots Ennis last evening? Did anybody feel celebratory at all? Was there like a victory lap that you felt you did, or that if you were watching the fight with a group of people, was there a celebratory air that was going around, high fiving, and yes, we done did it? Like, you know what I'm saying? There was none of that on my end. So then I was left to ask, and I'm still positing that question of, what did this victory establish? And can we call this a victory? Can we call this a victory? That's today's question. And part of the question of today's overall discussion, right? Can we call what we saw last evening from Boots Ennis a victory? Especially when we are, having to gauge with, what purpose this fight was servicing. Where was the victory? Who was the victor? Was it really Boots? Was it the boxing fans? Because we sure as fuck didn't win any goddamn thing except our time wasted. What was serviced, ladies and gentlemen? What was the statement that was made with this particular fight? Real talk. How the fuck do you claim a victory against a footless, stumbling novice of a fighter? Because, good people, that's exactly what the hell Lima Bean was. No particular skill set. Nothing memorable about him before or after this goddamn fight. So what was the game? This man fought an absolute nobody last evening, you guys. Let's not try to evade the facts. Let's not do that. Okay? I know there are some people out here, at least that I've seen across social media, let's say Twitter or whatever have you. People are like, yeah, pushing, respect on Boots' name. You guys should put your respect on Boots' name. You feel me? And I'm like, respect for what? I respect him because, as I said, he is one of my, he is somebody that I hold very, as and see as a premier fighter and a standout talent. Has the potential for greatness, the potential for that. But what I saw last evening did not get him any closer to that greatness. And that's something that we have to deal with, honestly. We really do. Especially if we consider ourselves supporters of that young brother. We got to be honest. Okay? What stature did Lima bring? What did he bring to the table? What accreditation did he merit as a fighter? Does anybody know? Does anybody know who he fought before Boots? Nobody gives a damn, and nobody knows, because his merit and accreditation is what? Non-existent. He's a fighter. He has that accreditation. He has that, certification. He is a professional fighter, But as far as his resume is concerned, it's as good as an empty goddamn bag, ladies and gentlemen. This is the person who Boots took out in a first round knockout stoppage. He did not take out Bud Crawford, Earl Spence, hell, even goddamn Lubin, who is a good fighter, by the way. He took out, in other words, nobody of note, nobody of stature, nobody that would put a star on his chest. Whoop-de-fucking-do, in other words, that he stopped Lima in the first round. He motherfucking better have. He better have. Now, for me, good people, Boots is in quite the precarious predicament to me. Hold on, let me take a sip of my tea, my rose tea. Boots is in quite the precarious position for me, and he has been real talk for, if you're going to look at it honestly, for quite a good portion of his career. Facts or no, right? You know, what's crazy is that Boots has long been understood to be a phenom. Let's say that he was long considered a phenom by many in the boxing world, according to the eye exam. Right? He was seen as, let's say, something of a rising comet or a force. Somebody who would bring, let's say, new, sparkling, vivid life to the budding world of young fighters who are making their own paths and embarking on, a transition into their eras, right? He was among and is among that young group of men who are, looking to stake claim and take the sport forward into the future, right? So he was considered, I should say, a large, bright light that everybody was interested in and drawn and attracted to, and rightfully so, because we all know of the skills that he had shown up until a particular point, and we saw that we liked his style, and he seems to have a lot to bring, a lot to add to the boxing landscape, right? But apart from the adulation and the doting words of belief from us boxing enthusiast brothers and sisters, this man has absolutely no sound victory as of yet to his name. That is just the facts. He has no sound victory as of yet that he can boast about or claim. No sound exclamation point added to his resume. Ain't that crazy? Especially when we consider that his record displays 35 and 0, 34, 35 and 0. How is it possible that a man just 5 fights short of his 40th professional fight, 5 fights away from his 40th fight, how is it possible that he can have not a single notable, honorable, or significant win or opponent to boast of? Can we talk about that? Can we talk about that? Nothing of significance. And this man is fucking goddamn damn near 40 fights into his career. As lauded and as noteworthy, ladies and gentlemen, as this young man has been over the years, simply based and predicated on the eye test that we have given him, we can only say that he fought, Stanley Ennis? That was his biggest achievement because he became unified back in April. But let's think about that in context, you guys. That just happened this year, this April. This April. And that was what? That would have made what? His 33rd fight or something like that? So after 33 fights, he becomes unified. It's just crazy to me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not even on front. And because of that, I am rescinding, absolutely rescinding, any shred of zealousness as far as my approach to the young Boots. I'm going to suspend that for a period of time. I'm going to rescind my zealousness for this young man until I see him contend with the elite of his division. He must fight the elite contemporaries. He must do that. And until he does that, I will withhold all semblance of zealousness and, over, doting, all of that. I'm not going to be throwing that out anymore. Because truthfully, brothers and sisters, I'm exhausted by what I have been seeing, truly exhausted. I can't even cap about that. I am bereft. I am left bereft because there is a scarcity that boxing fans are and have been repeatedly forced to juggle and deal with. There's a paucity and scarcity that I do not like from too great a number of our young elite fighters. And it's a difficulty that I have in doing this type of surveillance and this type of assessing about the issue, because I am and have been a staunch supporter of this young brother, so that it's not an easy analysis for me to make or gauge with, but like I said, this is just an honest observation as somebody who supports him. I'm glad that he, I guess at the very least, was able to unify in his career, at least, right? So far, unifying the belts at 147. I'm at least glad that he was able to do that. Of course, that's before he decided to abruptly haul ass up to 154 unannounced, right? But that is what that is. But at the same time, I'm replete, you guys. I'm replete with all types of queries about this young man and what exactly the motives are concerning his association with Eddie Hearn. We got to talk about that, brothers and sisters. His association with Eddie Hearn. Okay? What exactly is this union breeding? What is their partnership in dealing with each other breeding? I question that. I'm looking at that very closely because as far as Eddie Hearn goes, good old Edward, it seems to me nothing but a redundant cycle of immaterial promises and a bunch of mischief. A repetitive cycle of the immaterial. That's what's being bred. All right? I don't like anything that I am seeing, good people. Got to keep it a stack about that. Now, I'd also be remiss to not say, that I have a mistrust for good old Edward. You know what I mean? Don't trust that motherfucker at all. All right? Not at all. Now, I do feel like this, though. Whatever he wants to do with his countrymen, as far as his countrymen are concerned, the fighters over there, UK, that's his goddamn business. All right? I'm not in that man's business as far as what he is doing with whoever in the UK. But as it pertains to the Black elite American fighter, y'all already know how I'm stepping. Y'all already know how I'm stepping. You are going to have problems with me when I see shit out of line with the brothers over here. I don't play. Y'all already know where I'm at. I value our fighters. I support them. The ones standing 10 toes and uprightly, they have my support. And I want to see them flourish and succeed. That's my position as a fight fan. Okay? My adamance about elite Black warriorship being in position to follow the tradition of Black kings who've paved the way for boxing to be what it is absolutely and unquestionably serious and of absolute paramount to me. Okay? I want to see our brothers stepping correctly in what they do. And I want to see them taking more seriously their own sovereignty in the sport. I feel like a lot of our brothers need a wake-up call. And perhaps Boots Ennis is en route to receiving his. I think that the boxing world in general is tardy. And you guys know I reference this all the time. But I feel like the boxing world is definitely tardy in its recognition as far as our credence, the Black American stature that is. I feel like it's tardy in the recognition of our credence and our honorary status in this sport. That's a theme that I constantly touch and bring to the forefront because it is true, right? So that I find these particular disparities that I come across when I sit back in observation, I find that these disparities in the sport are part and parcel of the larger theme and mindset in boxing, right? So that the diminishment of Black elite American valor, the diminishment of that valor and prominence and the potential by way of tarnishing our style, the style that's attributed to us, right? All of these disparities, the tarnishing of our style, the belittling of our style, relegating it to running or whatever it is. We've seen that. Or whether by conspiring, complicit media, agenda-based misinformation that's pumped out and pushed into the public. That's another disparity, right? All of these internecine, pernicious aspects that go into boxing that cause the diminishment, at least in the eye of the public. It causes the diminishment or inspires the acceptance of a diminishment of Black American elite warriorship. And certainly, it's not just relegated to the media, good people. I'm talking about all the way down to the ways in which, quote unquote, promoters handle and maintain Black fighters who are totally capable of being put on the trajectory towards avid acclaim and success, right? But who are instead thwarted and ill-managed. That in and of itself is also playing a role in our diminishment in this sport. All of these things work in tandem so that the promoters themselves, I posit, are a part of the conspiratory movements that are set in motion to thwart and stifle the progress and supremacy, particularly of elite Black American warriorship. That's what I posit. That's my working theory and hypothesis right now. That the promoters are in on it too. It is not just your social medias, the people pumping out what they are told to by their higher ups, but that the promotional companies are a part of that agenda to stifle and diminish the pathways that elite Black warriorship can take to claim that level of accreditation and success to the highest degree in the sport. There is a pathway that they are setting these brothers up on, and these brothers are blindly following it because they are not educating themselves and they are not asking questions, and they refuse for whatever fearful reason. They are being reticent in taking the reins of their own careers, of their own ships, of their own destinies. And Boots is a crazy example, an explicit example of what I am saying. Painful as it may be to say that, this is what is being evinced, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? That type of derailment tactic is from within, and it includes the promoters. It includes the promoters. I think that some of these elite Black fighters definitely have hit pieces set upon them, right? and the motivations of these quote unquote promoters goes completely unbeknownst to the fighter, because the fighters are developing a sense of a blind loyalty and dependency upon these said promoters. They are being ensorcelled by these promoters, whether it be their English accents or the promise of millions and millions of dollars, whatever it may be, they are being ensorcelled by these people. And it is causing them to blindly follow and be swindled by the falsities that are rampant within these promises, these deals. And like I said, it doesn't begin and end with media alone. I think that there are cryptic, internecine aspects at work that promoters particularly are in on, generally speaking, but most certainly as it pertains to prominent Black fighters who pose an absolute chance, a real chance at dominating the sport. I think that they are selectively being withheld to thrive. They're being withheld from thriving in their careers. And I was absolutely reminded of that and made to really, really cling to that upon viewing Boots Ennis. His handling, the terrible, lackluster, non-existent, really, I can't even say lackluster, because the fucking promotion didn't even exist for this fight. Where was the promotion in the lead up to this fight? Why was it silent for the past month? The most promising standout names has no promotion surrounding his fight. What is going on? And then Eddie Hearn got the gall to sit up there on that damn stage, post-fight presser, calling himself the best in the fucking business. The best of what? The best goddamn scammer. Scam artist. No promotion in sight. And he's calling himself the best? Y'all better wake up. Shit pisses me off. Eddie Hearn is definitely a part of that conversation when I'm talking about attempts to thwart and detract the path that elite Black fighters can be on or ought to be on. He is detracting from that. When we analyze his relationship to Black American fighters, particularly brothers and sisters, let's talk about it. Let's unpack this. Over the past year, brothers and sisters, Edward scooped up two of the most promising young Black warriors that the sport has to offer currently. That is Boots Ennis, of course, and that is Shakur Stevenson. Both touted and hailed as phenoms. Phenoms throughout their careers. Maybe not so much now because a lot has, been dwindled. I'll talk about hit pieces. Well, we've seen the hit pieces put out on Shakur Stevenson. And a lot of that he has, kind of brought on to himself in many ways. But we see the general narratives that have been painted to detract from that status and stature that they were beginning to acclaim from themselves. He scooped two of these brothers up, two of the most promising in our country at least. Now, I've spoken about, you guys may have known, but, I had shared my views initially, upon hearing the news of, these brothers signing with Eddie Hearn. I was initially hopeful, in other words, when learning of the alliance that he was making with these two men. But, for example, let's just use Exhibit Goddamn A upon seeing Shakur Stevenson be given a scrappy, worthless, baseless fight with Joe Cordina. When was that? Last November? All of the motherfucking red flags went ablazing when I saw that shit. I could not, unsee the type of fight that this man was given upon his first fight signing Eddie Hearn. You give him goddamn Cordina? That was the best he could do? Joe goddamn Cordina? I was absolutely up in arms and appalled, ladies and gentlemen, as many of you were as well. Shakur Stevenson being propositioned with a fight against a 130-pounder who just got knocked smooth the fuck out. That's who Joe Cordina was. I could have thrown a goddamn shoe at Eddie Hearn for that shit. What? This is who you put in front of Shakur Stevenson? Let's not forget also, ladies and gentlemen, right after that, there was the promise of the Schofield fight, the whole debacle with the Schofield fight, right? But at least, even though I wasn't, totally ecstatic about that, right? I consider that like a major big fight. But at least, the people knew who Schofield was. And, a large majority of us had a natural interest in, Schofield's fighting style, his aggressive. We thought that he would actually pose, a level of competition with his fight style in facing Shakur Stevenson. Although, to many of us, he was considered to be green, compared to that of Shakur, right? But that we still found an interest and took an interest in his fight style. Okay. So, when that fight fell through, and Schofield goddamn decided to lay up in that goddamn hospital bed, and his damn sassy daddy, took the photos of him laying up like Snow White the damsel. You remember him leaning with his motherfucking, he should have just had his damn hand laying on his forehead like, oh, you know what I'm saying? The way he was laid up in that goddamn bed, that whole goddamn debacle, right? And, that fell through. And instead, we were given Josh motherfucking Paddy Wagon Padley as a replacement. Lord have mercy. Tell me we weren't fed up, y'all. We was like, who? The motherfucking plumber? Motherfucker just fixed my goddamn sink 2 weeks ago and he fighting Shakur Stevenson? That's who you got as the replacement? Jesus. So that, we were totally through. Totally out of our wits when we saw who that replacement was for Shakur Stevenson, right? Fortunately, though, even after all of that, right, he won that fight with Padley, so forth and so on. Fortunately, as disgusting and farcical as that whole ordeal was, I can say that at least Shakur seemed to have gotten the memo after all of that, because after that 2-fight, I guess, proposition, the 2-fight deal, right, with Eddie Hearn. After that, Shakur Stevenson really packed his stuff the fuck up and skedaddled right on up out of there. And he ventured to do his own thing after that, right? He was no longer tied to Eddie Hearn. And I think that was a very smart move on the part of Shakur Stevenson to not engage any further as far as, any dealings or signings with Edward Hearn, right? So good for Shakur for getting the hell up out of there, getting out of Dodge. Now, just think of this, you guys. All of that talk, do you guys remember all the talk that Eddie was doing in the lead up to signing Shakur Stevenson? Do you ever remember all the honey he had on his words? I mean, just honey everywhere, just putting all types of honey all over the words when he was courting Shakur Stevenson. Honey was everywhere. He couldn't speak without the honey just dripping from him. Oh, Shakur Stevenson. Oh, he's the best American fighter. Just cajoling left and right. All of that talk, all of that sugar, right? Sugar everywhere when he was courting Shakur Stevenson. All of that talk that he did, ladies and gentlemen, was all for naught, because in 2 fights, he couldn't even solidify any type of success for Shakur Stevenson. Wouldn't you want him to stay by baiting him in with the biggest fights possible? I mean, I know that there was a time where it was said that Shakur Stevenson had motion for him not to approach Tank Davis, and that has its own controversy surrounding that and stuff like that, which is understandable, right? But he couldn't get him. He couldn't even get him. He didn't even get him goddamn, what's the motherfucker that he just fought? Zepeda. That Zepeda fight was not under Eddie Hearn. Shakur was on his own accord, and I think rocking with DeBella. Eddie Hearn didn't even put Zepeda on the goddamn table. He put fucking Padley and Cordina. It's just absolute wild work, you guys, when we gauge with this stuff. When we reflect on this. All of that talking was for naught. All of the, you guys don't. You remember what Eddie Hearn would say, y'all don't know what y'all have. Y'all have it so good. You don't know what type of special fighter you guys have in America. He's the next American great. He's going to make American boxing great again. All that honey he was saying, right? All the while, it seemed that good old Edward Hearn had no goddamn intention on seeing that greatness of Shakur Stevenson to the mountaintop. No intention whatsoever of getting that man up there. He set out on a mediocre path that was fast-tracking Shakur Stevenson right into a goddamn ditch. Thank goodness Shakur Stevenson got out of there after that second fight. I honestly believe that if Shakur would have stayed, he was going to be absolutely stifled and that flame was going to be put out. Too bad for Boots, however, that he hasn't quite received the memo yet, brothers and sisters. Boots Ennis opted to re-sign with Eddie Hearn not too long ago, just a few months ago. Re-sign with that man, binding himself, in other words, to this man, Eddie Hearn, who hasn't yet delivered him anything close to what the boxing world has been expecting of him, which is a great, stand-out, noteworthy fight on the elite level. Where is that? You want to tell me that Lima Bean was it? Fuck out my face with the bullshit. Instead of Boots making, let's turn the view onto Boots now a little bit. Instead of Boots making his debut, ladies and gentlemen, an entrance into the 154-pound division with purpose, with fire and brimstone upon his entrance into this new division, instead of him coming into that weight class displaying a pernicious, venomous intent to dethrone a king, somebody with a strap, a champion. Instead of showing that, he instead allows Edward to take him by the hand, essentially, and gently walk him across the street like a child who don't know no goddamn better. That's how he chose to walk into 154, brothers and sisters, softly and cautiously and reticently. Oh, make sure you look both ways now, little Boots. You know you don't got your wherewithal about you now. Cars are coming from both sides. These boxing streets are dangerous, little Boots. Okay? It's dangerous out here. Be careful now, you hear? We can't get caught by the big old IBF truck up the street. We don't want to get hit by that Baccaram IBF truck. Let's make sure you watch the green to yellow to red while you crossing the street. Be careful, little Boots. We can't have you actually claiming turf like you a grown-ass man out here. You feel me? The fuck is going on? Nobody for the life of me, brothers and sisters, has been able to explicate why Boots decided to vacate the belts that he unified at 47 instead of using those belts as keys to open the door into a championship fight directly upon entrance into 154. Nobody can explicate that. Because it is unjustifiable and absolutely foolish. Why he would render himself without any means, any leverage whatsoever to claim and certify his championship. He rescinded. He rescinded his own authority. He gave up his own leeway and his own golden ticket into becoming a champion in his first fight. And for what reason? For what reason, brothers and sisters? To fight a fucking lima bean? A motherfucking lima bean? A goddamn lima bean? Somebody with absolutely not a shred of an ounce of anything to offer? A man who brought absolutely no value, no credentials whatever to the table? You know, there's just no getting beyond reality. We cannot get beyond this reality, good people. You know, and it's because that I am a patron of the young Boots that I cannot look lightly on this matter. It is because I have supported him and am in support of him still. That's where this fire is coming from. It's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? It is not necessary. You are putting all types of impediments on your own path. Why are you creating your own blockades? It does not make sense, brothers and sisters. In fact, I'm disheartened by what is going on. That's how I feel. I'm disheartened because I don't know what's going on. I don't understand the slowing up of your own root, you know? Because as I said aforementioned, I posit that there is a larger contextual framework that underpins the movement that he is making, or I should say the lack of movement that he is making. You know what I'm saying? There's a larger context, but I'm looking at him and I'm saying, aren't you paying attention? Where's your consciousness, young man? Where's your consciousness? Your consciousness. Because absolutely I can look at Eddie, but I'm looking at you too. You resigned. You are making these decisions. You are walking blindly right now. And you know what else? I don't know what his surrounding team is thinking, to be honest. What the fuck is Team Boots doing? Let's just highlight this for a bit. This aspect of Team Boots. Does he have one? I don't fucking know. Because it seems like the ship is completely in the hands of Eddie. Where is his team? Who the fuck is spearheading Boots' team? Is it solely in the hands of Eddie Hearn? How are these people gauging this man's career, in other words? Where is the input coming from is what I want to know. Does he have any savvy? You know what I'm saying? Does he have savvy, shrewd, astute people around him, sharp people who are looking out for his best interest, people who are keeping an eye on Eddie? Because he certainly needs some goddamn overseeing. Right now, this man is just running wild, doing whatever he wants. Is anybody overseeing Eddie? He cannot be led to command the ship. He just cannot be. He cannot be. What is going on? Because it seems like his role of promoter and manager are being intermingled. He's not even fucking promoting the fight. Like I said, there was no promotion for this fight. So what the fuck job is he doing? He talk a good game. like he was at the Post press saying all types of crazy shit, popping his own goddamn collar and talking out his ass as usual. But where the fuck is the backing? There's no proof in the pudding. Where is his team? Because Eddie clearly does not have the best interest at heart for that young man. It's crazy to me. Eddie out here just running wild like, you know, a hoe with a nigga's wallet. You know what I'm saying? She done got a hold of this nigga's wallet, you know, got his passcodes, got his PIN number, just carefree. Because it's all in her control now, because she done swindled this man out of his goddamn wallet. What is going on? Is everybody just nodding along, you know, to Eddie, or, you know, his plans, everything that he says, they're just nodding their head yes to it? What is going on? Are these people absolutely working off of blind faith? They are just taking this man at his word? Where's the pressure? Did you guys see, you know, the portion of that Post presser where Boots, you know, was asked something, and then Eddie Hearn had gave him kind of the floor to speak about what it was that he wanted, particularly for his career, kind of like saying, well, what do you want for the, you know, if you had your way, you know, the trajectory of your career, who would you want next? Right? He kind of gave him the floor to mention what his particulars are and who he wants to fight, so forth and so on. Did you guys see that part of the goddamn Post presser? And did you see the part where basically goddamn Boots is like, oh, daddy, I want whatever you want. Did you guys see that? He just gave it up. I want what you want, Big Daddy. You tell me. This is your show. Did you see that? I was like, what the fuck? Did you guys hear Boots, you guys? A reporter had asked Eddie, you know, what the bigger fight was, right? Between, I believe it was Xander and Virgil Ortiz. This is in the Post presser now. There's a reporter who says, well, he asked Eddie, what do you think is the biggest fight financially? What would breed the biggest financial success? The fight with Xander Zayas or Virgil Ortiz? And Eddie Hearn says the following. He says, quote, either. I mean, Zayas comes with a belt. Don't forget that Virgil is an interim world champ, and so is Boots now. So, you know, I want him to win world titles and become unified. But really, you know, I'm important in this equation, but this is the boss. So he will make the decisions. I don't think he really minds, but you know, he's the guy that you should be asking. So here is Eddie Hearn in a very, you know, casual, nonchalant way, kind of saying, well, you know, basically this is, you know, Boots is running the show, so he can tell me, you know, I'm an important aspect of this. You understand what I'm saying? But ask Boots because he's the general, right? We follow his rules. You know what I mean? He's the boss. So that he is laying the authority in the hands and in the lap of Boots Ennis. Okay? And then good old Eddie boy goes on to ask Boots in front of everyone, who would you prefer to fight? Xander Zayas, Ortiz, Fundora, who do you want? He is putting the authority in this man's hands. And fucking Boots, oh my God, you guys. You know what Boots does? Boots goes on to say the following. Boots says, quote, it don't matter. I'm on tour right now. Just bring me whoever you want. And he starts laughing. Whoever you want. Do you hear this? So, you know, of course, I'm thinking outrightly, here are my goddamn suspicions being absolutely proven correct. Proven correct. That Boots has relinquished all semblance of his own, you know, intelligence and involvement with the running of what is supposed to be his ship, his career. He has relinquished his own authority to Eddie Hearn, ladies and gentlemen. That was a quote. Go watch that presser for yourself. If you think I'm kidding. What? Ladies and gentlemen, Boots Ennis has got Eddie Hearn manning his ship. This is Eddie Hearn's ship. This was a little glimmer into an aspect that I found absolutely, astounding. This man, Eddie Hearn, at least in this moment, right? Because who knows what's really going on behind the scenes, but at least in this moment, Eddie Hearn took it upon himself to publicly tell the world, you are navigating the ship. What do you want to do? This is your time to tell the world what you want. I will, move over to the passenger side in this moment. You tell the world what you want. And Boots decides to rescind his own authority and sovereignty. He wavers. He completely wavers his own rule. He wavers from that and says, oh, it's what you want to do, Daddy. Huh? Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think that these men, that these brothers, and this may just be, within and can fit within a larger context and framework. I don't think that these men out here really understand what assuming posture means and how absolutely imperative it is to do so. This man sat in that seat coquettishly, just tickled pink by Eddie Hearn. Every time Eddie Hearn spoke, there he just was in the background. Amen. Get him, Eddie. Yeah, Daddy. You show him, Daddy. That's what the energy was to me. Coding him on. Yeah, Eddie. You tell them. So that the absolute authority and rulership was in Eddie Hearn's hands. You felt no backbone or no spine or no uprightness from Boots Ennis in that seat. Why was he so submissive in his presence, in his energy? But you want to sit up here and tell me that 154 is yours? I got questions, you guys. The whole energy was crazy to me, And then we saw Eddie Hearn, kind of gascinating, real talk, about how Boots Ennis is the highest paid fighter, because he got the job done pretty much in under a minute or whatever the hell have you. He got the job done, so fast, first round or whatever. And here again was Boots turning over pink again, tickled pink, just pliant and supple and just coming up roses. Blushing pink. I'm absolutely disturbed, brothers and sisters. I'm not even going to cap. I'm disturbed by that. I have so many questions. It's insane. This man Boots is absolutely compliant in taking the back seat. Absolutely comfortable with that. And did he not have, did he not learn his lesson from his previous, promotional dealings with the other company that he was with prior to signing with Eddie Hearn, that whole ordeal that led him, to end up suing that particular company? Supposedly a large portion of the quarrel that caused the separation between he and his previous promoter was the idea that he was, the contract was not agreed to where they would keep him active. It was an issue of inactivity, right? I think he was set to fight at least twice a year. And I think that, that promotional company had him fighting once, very scarcely here and there. And so he wound up suing that company. I don't think inactivity was the only, means that led to that, departure, or separation. But that was certainly one of the most highlighted that I recall at that time, being the reason why he parted ways with them. So that I'm left wondering, if Is Boots merely satisfied with being given fights? Is that why he's so contented with Eddie? Is that Eddie promises to give him fights? Is that why he's so easily yielding to this, association with Eddie? Because he will be given fights no matter the caliber of that fight, no matter what the fight breeds or does not stand to gain. He's just happy with fighting. Is that what this is? You know what I mean? He is not, let's just say, in other words, worried about the quality of fights. Has he gotten used to mediocrity so much that he is willing to take this back seat in this way, being contentedly corralled by Eddie Hearn? That's what I'm looking at and asking. What? Where is your vehemence? It's too comforting, too comfortable, too motherfucking, soft here. Where is your fire at? Boots stated recently that he wanted to pursue Undisputed at 54. I'm sure many of you have heard that as well. And I can't help but feel half-hearted about that, brothers and sisters. I'm lackluster about this, newfound desire to be undisputed at this new weight class. I'm lackluster about it because didn't he just tell me that shit at 47? You know what I'm saying? You just told me that. And you ain't do it. So that I'm looking at you like, you know what I mean? Heard that shit before. Let's see you actually do it. Let's see if you actually do it. Because where I was standing 10 toes against all types of tirades that were going on about the young Boots at that time, people castigating him, saying that he was ducking Virgil when that fight was offered to him at 54, and he denounced that fight, turned it down because he said that he had bigger tasks at hand, and the biggest task was undisputed at 47. Okay? And I agreed with him. I was assured by the notion that he did that because undisputed was a much more important task for him, an aim for him to achieve. So I was 10 toes with the young Boots. Like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Don't call him no duck. Undisputed is much better. Virgil ain't got no fucking belt, which was facts. Only for this motherfucker to turn around and ditch Undisputed. Months later. Not 2 years later. Not 3 years later. But within months. Didn't even pursue Undisputed. Bounced completely from the division. He absolutely jettisoned his own goal. So that now upon me hearing about this new objective of being undisputed at 154, I'm looking at this motherfucker like, show you right. Show you right. I mean, my thrill has absolutely dissipated. I have lost steam. I have lost fervor for this newfound sense of wanting to be undisputed at 54. And let me say this, it's not that I don't want to see him achieve it, because I absolutely would like to see him achieve that for himself. Just like I would have for him at 47. But that I am approaching it with a, fool me once, but you ain't gonna goddamn fool me again type of disposition. That's my approach now. It's like I'll sit back and believe it when I see it. So that I can't even have gusto about his goals because of how he misused his position previously. And I don't want to build a mistrust, but I'm definitely looking at you with scrutiny. With a certain level of scrutiny that I did not previously have. You understand? Interesting to me. Let me check in with the good family. I know I've been kind of going on for a while, but this stuff had, I had a lot of thoughts about this, beautiful people. A lot of thoughts. Salute to the brothers and sisters who came in. Let me scroll up to see. Salute to the King Corbin. I see you. I see you. Salute to the Macadocious Mac of the South in the building. I see you. My comrade told me to talk that talk. King, you already know what time we on. You know what I mean? It's crazy to me. Salute to the King Snoop. I see you. Good family making their way in. Yes. Yes, Trichinolte. Um, it's a terrible, 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 analogy to make, but it is an accurate one. Boots is looking like the new Boo Boo Android. Um, I'd hate to see that happen, but get this, Boo Boo Android was definitely under the tutelage for a particular period of time, not too long ago. Under the Matchroom banner, he was with Eddie Hearn, and of course, ultimately wound up parting ways with that as well. And Hearn was absolutely dead set on keeping Andrade away from Canelo and keeping him away from Charlo and all of this, that, and the third. So it's just, it's crazy. It's crazy to gauge with. Yes, twin. I would have liked to have seen, the Boots versus Norman. And there was absolutely no reason, as we know, why that fight um, could not have been materialized, because the reality is that it could have and it should have, but that Eddie Hearn, at all costs, ensured that that fight not get made. Right? He had a large part to do with that fight not getting made. The King Patrice says Spence needs to get a fight soon so his name could be back in discussion. Him and Boots could be a good scrap. Yes, I'd like to see that. That would be an interesting fight for sure. Yes, Twin. Twin says Eddie Hearn is setting Boots up for something. I don't like where it's going. You guys, it's just, it's a lot of stuff going on in my brain right now that I don't like. And like I said, I'm absolutely replete with questions, regarding this whole situation. You know what I mean? Now, you know, I think that much of the boxing public is beginning to adapt, um, this position about fool me once, but you ain't gonna fool me again type of thing. I think a lot of people are coming into that level of consciousness finally. People, in other words, seem to be in large numbers, more and more, demanding more frequently that, as boxing fans, our intelligence, our ability to perceive and intuit, not be played with. Okay, our funds not be played with, our time not be insulted or wasted. I'm seeing a lot of people coming, into that type of mindset. And it's a good thing to see that people are like, yo, Lima is absolutely unacceptable, and people are holding both Boots and Eddie Hearn to the fire fiercely about that. There are people out there who are trying to make create, outs for, Boots Ennis here and there. But I could say that majoritively speaking, I have seen, many more people speaking against, this fight, and people saying, listen, this fight absolutely serves no purpose whatsoever. And there's some people who are kind of like trying to cope with it, like, well, let him get Lima out the way. Hopefully, when, they're on a hope and a prayer, basically. Oh, well, hopefully he gets Lima out of the way and then we can move on, to the next thing. Um, but I'm just so tired of that position in boxing. Like we gotta go through so much trash before we could not even, get the promise of having an actual, fight that we are, awaiting, heavily, severely awaiting. It's just like, climbing an endless mountain of monotony. It's ridiculous to me. You know what I'm saying? But I do think that it's a very important turnaround that seems to be going on as far as the public consciousness in boxing, where we're slowly seeing people, make these types of stances. Many more people seem to be coming abroad and opting to not simply sit blindly and do, the now infamous shutting up and shutting the fuck up and being a fan. You know what I'm saying? People are not so readily, um, easily taking to that, but that's that mindset right now in boxing. Um, as I'm seeing more and more. Of course, you have those that are absolutely compliant and content with that mindset, but there is a coming to consciousness that I see going on. Um, and it certainly has been made, you know, evident as far as this Boots fight. A lot of people were discontented, disenchanted by this fight totally, as they should have been. You know what I mean? Um, and I think that as the cognizance unfolds, you know, it's not going to any longer be able to quell people's desire to see the best fight the best. In other words, they're not going to be able to get away with this fucking filibustering, of fights and filler of fights, you know, much longer. You know what I'm saying? Excuse that bell if you guys can hear that. I don't know who the fuck that is, but you know what I'm saying? Like they're not going to be able to quell the public anymore or keep us from these big fights. A lot of people are making more and more demands and becoming more and more tired and frustrated about these filler fights that we are being given, these nonsensical fights that we are being given. You know, it barely can sustain us now, real talk, which is why various outlets are I think a lot of these outlets that try to push the propaganda to keep us distracted or to keep us kind of more focused on trying to swindle us into believing in fights that have no worth and no purpose. I think that with those particular outlets that are being used to prompt that, I think because they are there, they try to work vehemently on the minds of boxing fans. Um, Around the clock. Who the fuck is this ringing the goddamn bell, you guys? Excuse my language. Hold on a second. Anyway, um, I think that they work on the minds of the boxing public around the clock to push that type of nonsensical stuff out. It's just a matter of keeping us distracted. But what these people, in position forget to realize, even with all of the propaganda and all of the, attempts that they make to distract us with reasons why we should be swindled by exhibition fights and worthless fights of all sorts, right? They try to do that, but they really do forget that, there is a reason why we are all here. Okay? Yes, Daryl. Typical NY, dealings. But anyway, um, I think that they forget that we are actually here for a reason, even though we may be distracted by things here and there. You know what I'm saying? Some things may catch our attention that we have no business being, distracted by or swindled by. But, even despite all of that, we are here as boxing fans, nonetheless, brothers and sisters. That's what we are here for at the end of the day. Even those of us who we consider to be MAG 7 level or MAG 13 level, you know what I mean? Of whatever particular, extreme you may be to one degree or another. I think that it's like we actually are here to see wonderful fights being made. You know what I'm saying? So if we put all of that bullshit aside and you set the nonsense and the distractions aside and actually put a real fight on the table, people are going to clamor to that. That will always outweigh the bullshit. It's just nothing that's going to be able to dissuade from that type of attraction that the big meaningful fights hold. Hold on, you guys. I'm about to curse somebody out. Hold on. Who is it? Who is it? For who? For who? Oh, child, you guys. Fucked up my whole bag. But anyway, um, where was I, you guys? Um, um, we are here at the end of the day to see some wonderful fights. You know what I'm saying? So that I think these people in position forget that, despite these distractions, despite some people out there being easily roused and oftentimes gullible, I would say, to easily pick up these distractions. At the end of the day, beautiful people, this is still a sport, a competitive combat sport at that. This is a combat sport. So that, we want to see people compete. The attention, in other words, is always going to be brought back to seeing elite competitorship firsthand and on an elite level. You know what I'm saying? And that's precisely what's occurring as far as what I call the demystification that's happening of Jerron Boots Ennis. We have given him the praise. We have thrown the exaltation at that young man. Facts or no, y'all? You know what I'm saying? We have maybe even prematurely exalted that man and extolled that man, right? We've lauded, his talent. And we have been brimming for years at the thought of his promise, right? Maybe even distracted by his talent, perhaps. But the reality is that we have now arrived at this place where we are saying, well, when the fuck are you going to conquer, young man? We've given you the praise already. You know what I'm saying? We already threw the flowers at his feet. You know what I'm saying? We prematurely, did eye tests and put him up there on par with people like Bud and Earl, and people compare him to Roy Jones and all the extolling that you can think of. We have lauded this man beyond belief. Now we are at this point where we are saying, when are you going to conquer? That's the point that we've arrived at as boxing fans. We want to see him now conquer. No more goddamn exaltation for you. How about you add some bodies to that resume? Some notable bodies to that resume. That's where we have arrived, many of us. It is time for him to show and prove that he is capable of doing such. No more extolling for you until you prove that you are worthy. Isn't this a recurrent theme, you guys? Isn't this what we have arrived at concerning Tank Davis? Isn't that what we have been pushing to see of Shakur Stevenson and many of these young fighters of this particular generation, right? Except the very few who stand out, and I mean the very, very few, meaning Devin, right? Who is about the only one who is taking it that level beyond, right? But that, many of these young brothers are just out here just, I don't know what they're doing, twiddling their goddamn thumbs. What is going on? What is going on? And, I'd like to believe, what everybody else seems to be hopeful of, which is that Boots will turn it all around somehow. He will find a way and he will turn it all around and be on his merry way, right, to slaying the dragon in his next fight. Oh, don't worry about it, Sugar Free. You're going too deep now, you hear? Mars, why you always got to put all that pressure on Mars? Huh? Goddess, what's wrong with the goddess? Why is the goddess coming on so thick? Just let him get rid of Lima, and in his next fight, blah, 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 et cetera, right? He's going to be, come undisputed in a flash. Don't you worry about it, Sugar Free, right? I would like to believe that. But real talk, what I'm saying? I will no longer be so whimsical in my approach anymore. That's just not something that I'm going to do. Okay. I'm not going to be so yielding, to that notion as it concerns any fighter, honestly, who isn't doing the work or laying the groundwork to show that they are on that particular route, to legacy building, legacy establishment, which is of the absolute most important, achievement that one can set out on to achieve. If I don't see you putting in that work and laying that particular groundwork, then I got some, it would be crazy of me to not, squint an eye at you and saying, well, is this what you want? Because it doesn't necessarily look like you're going in that direction. And I'm not going to mystify the reality simply because I like you, simply because I think you hold whatever particular level of potential. You know what I mean? I want to see it put to work. That's what I want to see. So even though I'd like to believe what these other people out here believing, I'm not going to be so yielding anymore. It's time for these fighters to yield their own potential. Yield your own. I'm not going to surmise it for you. I cannot surmise your greatness for you. You have to live it out. You have to give it. Okay? We've already given that grace. No more goddamn grace. These people seem to have gotten drunk and fat off of our admiration of them. I'm tired of that shit. Time to trim off the access and get to work. And if you don't, you will be left behind. Period. That's just the type of time that I'm on. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not sure if you guys took note of this, but do you guys see how incessantly these people are calling for Ortiz? He is calling for Ortiz incessantly. Eddie Hearn is incessantly calling for Ortiz. What is this obsession with Ortiz, you guys? Oh, Ortiz is next now. We want Ortiz next. You know what I'm saying? Now, while he was in that post-fight interview, I'm talking about the one where he was still in the ring now. Boots, did I guess did you guys see that I don't know if that was a call out. Was that a call out that he was doing in the ring before he got out of the ring? I guess this was supposed to be some type of call out. I don't fucking know what this was. Honestly, it was a little weird for me. I didn't know what it was because the energy was a little bit strange. It was weird how he went about it all. But this is what Boots said. He says, quote, "It's going to happen next, right? I know he's got his fight coming up. He's focusing on his fight. And, if he don't win, I'll fight the winner of that. But I want Virgil Ortiz next. If we can't get Virgil next, I hear that baby Cuh was calling me out too. Charlo, he can get it next. Fundora, what's his name? Baccarat. The Baccarat can get it. Everybody at 54 can get it. Xander can get it. Anybody can get it. I'm belt chasing. This is my division. 154 is mine. I'm on tour." End quote. That was Boots Ennis basically saying everybody can get it. Right? And it sounds goddamn good and dandy. Okay? But you sure as hell started off your quote unquote tour with a limp stick. If you get what I'm hitting at there. If you get my damn drift. What a limp way to begin your quote unquote tour, young sir. You on tour? That's a hell of a way to start that goddamn tour. Ain't nobody asked for that song. Okay? But you goddamn out here performing it. What tour is this? I want my money back. You feel me? What goddamn tour? Huh? I'm expecting goddamn pyro and strobe lights and goddamn green screens and tall towering, Cirque du Soleil out this bitch, motherfuckers flying off ceilings, and you out here playing goddamn double dutch. What kind of tour are you on, sir? That's a lackluster ass tour that you've embarked on, at least the way you've begun it, so that I'm not impressed. I'm waiting to be impressed. You ran out of 147 and made me think that, I was in for some heat. That's what I thought I was going to get. Oh, okay. He's making this, rash, abrupt decision to leave 147. Oh, he must be going up to 54 to get the business. I'm thinking that I was in for some heat. Okay. I thought that I was going to get this work put on me. You understand? Talk to me nice. That's what I'm expecting. Instead, I get some old stale, deflated, limp nonsense. Excuse me? This is what was waiting for me? This? I don't play with that. The fuck is this tepid ass goddamn entry into this damn division? Absolutely cringe, you guys. Absolutely cringe. And then here comes goddamn Eddie Hearn trying to sprinkle some seasoning with the motherfucking right hand, holding up to his goddamn, that man that was sprinkling the goddamn salt. Here go Eddie trying to sprinkle some salt and rev it up, trying to hype Boots Ennis up while he's in the ring. This is what Eddie says when they were still in the ring. Oh, line him up and we'll piece him up. Virgil Ortiz will get destroyed by Jaron Ennis. I'll bet the house on it with Oscar De La Hoya. It's the best fight in boxing in America. It's a beautiful fight. He's a great fighter, but this guy is another level. I'm telling you, we've got 8 to 10 years of greatness from this guy. He lives the life. There's nobody like him in boxing. He's going to go up. Anyone, Ortiz, Martizaliev, Fondora, Abu, Zayez, he will destroy them. End quote. That's what Eddie Hearn is saying while they're in the ring. He's trying to sprinkle his little seasoning to hype up the moment. It's like, oh, really, Edward? You want to call all of these names now? You want to look to these particular types of champions now? Really? Why the fuck didn't he use his belt to fight him in his entrance? Because he surely could have goddamn fought him. He could have got his goddamn Baccarat. Baccarat ain't got no goddamn fight lined up. What's going on? It's just crazy to me. Why the fuck didn't you, quote unquote, line them up and piece them up in his entrance into the division? Why did you refrain from taking that particular type of moment? That would have been the way to make the statement upon his entrance into 54. Lima didn't make the goddamn statement. You sure as hell didn't make a statement with no goddamn Lima bean. You got this man Boots out here looking like a goddamn sucker, a chump, a straight up herb out here fighting a goddamn Lima bean. That's the route that you chose. What you talk about? Line him up and we'll knock him down. Excuse me, sir. Eddie is out here wilding. And he's absolutely being allowed the space to do that. And he's being coaxed by Boots Ennis. Boots Ennis is cheering him on. Like, yeah, son, talk to him. Bring him on. Bring him on now, Eddie. Talk to them, daddy. It's like, what is going on here? This fight has done absolutely nothing, has brought absolutely no credibility whatsoever to Jaron Boots Ennis. Okay? The only thing it did to Boots' credibility was hold it in absolute question and contempt. That's what it did. How dare motherfucking Edward, line him up and we'll piece him up. The fuck? Line me up some goddamn English tea, Edward. How about that? This dude is a whole goddamn weirdo. Line him up and we'll piece him up. Shit is crazy to me. Go put a fucking kettle. Go get me a kettle and bring me some goddamn tea, Eddie. The fuck? I was out here looking at my screen. I could have threw my whole shoe at that damn screen last evening, brothers and sisters. Crazy work. Additionally, like I said, I do not like the fixation on Virgil Ortiz for a very specific reason, beautiful people. Why the fuck are they saying that they want Virgil next? I'll tell you why. Okay? This is why there's the fixation and the obsession right now with mentioning the name of Virgil Ortiz. This is what I posit. It is because Eddie Hearn wants to draw in and cash in as quickly as possible on Jaron Boots Ennis. That is what I posit. He knows that this fight will bring the most money that he stands to make with Boots Ennis at the 154-pound division. He is absolutely aware of that. And he wants to cash in on that promptly. Promptly. By doing this, it will appear as if Eddie Hearn has a vested interest in Boots' career path because he knows that people have long been calling for this fight. People have long been highly interested in this particular fight with Virgil Ortiz. And seeing that fight materialize, he knows that there is a history there between them, that their names have been kind of placed in tandem with each other. Okay? He knows that. However, do you guys think that should this fight happen next, that Eddie Hearn is going to have all the steam Once that fight is out of the way, do you think that Eddie is going to have all the steam and the smoke to see Boots become undisputed the way he quote unquote says he does? Or I want to see Boots become a title holder. Do you think once that fight gets made and solidified with Virgil Ortiz that he's going to have the same amount and same level of gusto for seeing Boots become undisputed after he has banked and cashed in on the biggest fight of that division? You tell me if he's still going to get up for Boots Ennis, in other words, after that fight is made. Why do you think he is so adamant about pressing for that next? Oh, we can make it with Oscar De La Hoya. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's an absolute viable question, ladies and gentlemen, that I want to pose to us this evening. Eddie Hearn has the advantageous appearance of seemingly being invested in Boots' career long term. He has the guise of that in his propositioning of this particular fight with Ortiz. He can hide behind the guise because he knows that that fight holds its own level of merit and excitement and anticipation for it because it has, they have been they're historically tied. Their names have been circling each other for some time so that he can appear as invested, fully invested in the growth of Boots Ennis by making that fight, right? Oh, he made the fight with Virgil. People will acclaim him for having made that fight, right? Because it would be a big fight. But ask yourselves this, brothers and sisters. Wouldn't this fight with Virgil Ortiz be even bigger if it encompassed the idea that something would be on the line for both men? Wouldn't it be a bigger fight if something was at stake? Something of absolute paramount value was on the line for both of them to gain? Outside of course, the compensation or whatever have you, the money generated. Wouldn't it hold more merit if something was on the line for both men, i.e. a belt? Hello? Wouldn't it hold more merit and weight if there was a belt on the line? Why wouldn't Eddie and Della Redbottom opt to make this fight on a championship level? Wouldn't it be worth more to have Virgil Ortiz and Boots Ennis meet each other for a championship title match? Let me know if I'm tripping. You mean to tell me that these motherfuckers are just going to be out here randomly fighting for nothing? Just out here fighting dry? Just dry as it gets. You're not gonna wet the tip. You're just out here just gonna have these men fighting dry as a desert? What? What would be the game? What would be the game, brothers and sisters? If no belt is on the line. So that if there is no belt on the line, I hope that you guys can clearly see. Hopefully this evinces for you absolutely clearly that Mr. Eddie Hearn, Mr. Pour Me a Cup of Tea and a Kettle Eddie Hearn is solely, purely, and wholly focused on banking off of the back of Boots Ennis via this Ortiz fight. That's the sole interest. Because what other gain is there to be had by making this fight, quote unquote, next, the way they are positing that they intend to make this fight next? You know what I mean? Having these motherfuckers out here dry as hell, they don't wet the tip, they don't do shit. It's just motherfucking, it's just go and go. No lube, no nothing. Just a straight goddamn shooter. No moisture whatsoever in the building. Just out here dry as ever. Go ahead and go get it, y'all. What? And listen, brothers and sisters, Virgil Ortiz and Boots Ennis are, among the biggest names currently standing at 54 right now. Because, of course, Jamel Charlo has not re-entered the division. EJ, the Truth Spence himself, has not officially entered into the division with a fight yet, right? Tim Tszyu was dethroned. Fundora is lackluster, even though he's a champ, right? And so that Virgil Ortiz and Boots Ennis hold the most, weight as far as the names are concerned. They have the most buzz around their names, especially when you put them together. And you mean to tell me that the two biggest names would fight for nothing? Virgil Ortiz is not a champion, ladies and gentlemen. I don't give a damn how, much of an interim, you want to call him. Motherfucker ain't a champion. An interim is not a champion. You want to call him an interim world champion. The fuck is that? Nigga ain't got no goddamn strap. And neither does Boots by his own goddamn, faulty ass business moves. So that these two men are fighting virtually for nothing. I don't have a problem with them fighting. Absolutely. They got to get it popping. I can't wait for those two men to meet in the ring. But because of their stature, because of the anticipation around this particular type of fight, don't you think that a belt being put on the table makes the stakes that much bigger? In addition to the money? Where is the hardware? Where is the legacy? You got these men out here fighting dry, no legacy in sight. And for what reason? That's a detriment to this division and to the sport, if we want to look at it in totality. That does nothing. Got these men are going to go ahead and get their paydays, they're going to get their purses or whatever, and everybody's going to fucking forget about it. It means nothing in the long term. Do you understand? I don't think that this fight should happen next. I don't think that this fight should happen until there is at least one strap on the line. But real talk, I even question that because it's like, Ortiz has never been a belt holder. At least Boots has. I think that Boots would, be more apt to get in a strap before Virgil, right? It'll be wonderful if they each brought their straps, you know what I'm saying, and maybe had a not unification, but let's say undisputed. I think that would be a huge fight, right? Two of the biggest names going at it for undisputed, but I'm liable to believe that Virgil won't ever fucking have a strap until he fights Boots. Because I'm pretty confident that at some point, even though it did not happen in the timeline that I would have liked, I'm pretty sure that he will grab a strap at some point. I don't see Boots strapless throughout his runnings at 54. But I kind of question that when it comes to Virgil Ortiz, seeing is that, he's never fucking been a champion. Lord have mercy, you guys. I just don't like the idea of them fighting dry. We need some lubrication in the building. Let's get some legacy lubrication popping up in here because the dry is not doing it for me. Okay? At all. Am I tripping or not, brothers and sisters? Sorry for the visuals on that, but sometimes, I don't like to sugarcoat things. You guys already know how I am. So that I feel like the best way I can paint the picture is the route that I'm going to take. So forgive me for the analogy. But that's just how I see it. You know what I mean? Makes no sense for them to fight, for nothing of worth on the table. You know what I mean? Like I said, us boxing fans, we don't get to take home the financial gains that these fighters and promoters stand to make off of that particular type of, interaction. We take home the legacy. Seeing those men get it in and get it popping for a belt that's how you talk to me nice as a boxing fan. You know what I mean? Talk to me nicely. And it just doesn't make sense any other way. As far as Boots and Virgil is concerned, I don't know why there is this vehemence. I don't know why there is this alacrity that is present in terms of, when it comes to making this particular fight next. When, there's a championship that can be earned and had that would stand to make this fight even more big even more notable, even more noteworthy. You know what I mean? Um, I don't like that. I don't like the fixation that they have on the Ortiz and the talking about Ortiz. Every goddamn interview is mentioning goddamn Ortiz in the post press. I saw a few, of course, in the post presser in the ring, and then the post presser conference, and then I saw another interview that was had. It's just like, okay, I get it. It's a way to build, the anticipation for the fight, but I just don't think that fight should happen dry at all. You know what I mean? But what do you guys think, you guys? Let me check in with the good fam. I just wasn't having it upon hearing it. Beautiful people. Oh my goodness! Oh, look who's in the building, my beautiful king. What's up to my beautiful king, BFTB? Is he laughing? Oh my God, the beautiful king is giggling in the chat. Am I lying or not, beautiful king? Okay, that's just not how we do things. It's just not. It absolutely is not. Okay. Let me see what else we got. The king, Stephen X. Did I salute you, king? I don't think I saw you come in earlier. Salute to the king, Stephen. He says, Boots has been reduced to just a hometown Philly fighter. He's not growing. and that's a that's a part of the larger conversation, King Stephen. Absolutely agree with you on that one. He's being marginalized. He's being marginalized. And I know that I don't want to seem conspiratorial. When I mentioned what I did in the first half of the discussion, where I was talking about the swindling, the thwarting of the path of elite Black fighters to ensure that they are detracted and kept from their absolute abilities to succeed. That's the relegated, marginalized kind of corner that's been cut out for these Black fighters. And I don't think these Black fighters are aware of that, that these inner workings are set in place to entrap them, and it certainly is at play when we think about, him fighting, being relegated, like you said, to a hometown fighter. It's time for Boots to spread his wings in every way and in every sense of the term and perspective. And I do not see growth for him either. And it's quite, that's what's disheartening to me about all of this, so that my passion is really because I am disheartened by, this small corner, he is being pushed into, and more so that he is allowing himself, to accept with an ease and with a complacency that I hold in absolute question, because I don't get it. I really just don't get it. This is the time for him to take the reins of his career. Yes, twin, big fish in a little pond. Exactly. And, I know a lot of people, like to hate on the young king, but young king, it really is exemplary in his movements, in the sport. And he's setting a precedent definitely for, not that it hasn't been done before, right? Because we've seen Floyd take the reins and kind of establish and embark upon that, given it, an ultimate example, for those who come after him. But that Devin Haney really is his own precedent as far as the younger fighter are concerned. Who else in his generation is doing what he does? He really is the only one, right? And so we see a lot of people not so easily accepting of the idea of taking the reins completely, whereby they go about creating not only just something cute, an LLC after themselves, I'm him promotion, some fake ass goddamn promotional company that they don't sponsor any fights under, that is on nobody's banner, that sets no events up, that has no workings with the commissions and the states and the, I'm saying, to set up their own fights where they want to, how they see fit, the ability to be flexible and moving on to different networks and all of the freedoms that is allotted to Devin Haney because of his independence. People aren't readily willing to take that particular type of avenue. because I believe, as the beautiful King BFTB has said in a past live, which was absolutely on point, as he always is. He said that it's a hard road. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people want to take the road that has already uh, been indented. They want to take the road that already has a track on it. They don't want to put the brick down to create a road. They'd rather go to the one that already has a groove in it, a proven pathway that's already been walked through, right? And so what Devin did, he didn't take the easily traceable route. He had to take his machete and cut through forest to make his own path, right? And even though it can be viewed as taxing, I think it could be absolutely worth it as far as our fighters, particularly American Black elite fighters, are concerned, um, because we have so much against us in this sport, and it's time for us to assume our autonomy in every way possible, even if we have to take the baby steps to do it. In fact, you can't take any meaningful larger steps without first having the understanding of what the baby steps are. So that I would like to see more autonomy from our elite Black warriorship, expressed. And I think that Boots and anybody else who wanted to embark on that type of path, or take on that type of mindset to put that work in, would benefit greatly from that. I don't know if these people just figure, like, I don't have the time to do it. I think there's a complacency that people get because of the money that is offered so lavishly in their laps. That they don't want to waste the time in acquiring all of the money that they stand to make in their minds, and so they just take the easy route. I don't know. It's a myriad aspects that go into the mindset of why people refrain from really, really solidifying, claiming that level of independence. But you know, I don't know. That's a whole nother discussion in and of itself. Salute to the King David. I see you, King David. Oh my goodness, I got some super chats, y'all. Hold on. The King and the Coach Hudson, my number one comrade, showing me some big love today in the chat, as usual, with his support. Thank you so much, King. He says, Eddie told Boots, since you finished so fast, you are the highest paid fighter per second right now. Yeah, exactly. So you are paid well. Boots said, what? And Eddie laughed it off. Better wake up, child. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. I absolutely recall that. Yep. Highest paid fighter per second. Yeah, because you basically went in there and got him out of there so quickly. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? My beautiful Queen Mama Love, Chiquila Fields, in the super chat with some love. She says, always 10 toes down in battle with the cook. Big love, peace, and blessings, beautiful one. Thank you so much, my Mama Love. I appreciate you gracing me with your love and your grace and your presence. Thank you so much for the support. As always, beautiful queen. Oh my goodness, the King and my twin Daryl Anderson showing big, big love as always. He says, just leaving my artwork as usual for the great Sunday cook. Always great boxing discussions, twin. 10 toes down. You already know what time it is, King. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for the love. Appreciate my good family. Yeah, so that's my thoughts about it, you guys. As far as that trajectory for Boots Ennis, I really don't know what to anticipate for this young brother. I do hope him the best, but I'm like I said, I'm not going to be so whimsical as far as Boots Ennis is concerned, and I'm not so stolid as to or how I view my support of him. Right? Um, I want to see him prosperous in his journey. I know what he said at 47. I know what he is currently saying about 54, wanting to be undisputed. I know all the weight classes that he said he wanted to eventually get up to and conquer and stuff like that. And so I am with him on that. I look forward to seeing that at some point. I would hope to think that I can be able to see that at some point. But, I'm not going to extol him in the way that I have previously until I begin. And this is just, like I said, it goes across the board. You know what I'm saying? Right now, currently, as it stands, the young King is the only one who who is deserving of the extolling that I bestow. Young King is the only one out here doing things uprightly and correctly to me. You know what I'm saying? As far as the younger brothers are concerned. Young King is in a league of his own. He has been always, right? And then he just further proves and solidifies his place in stature as he develops and as he grows. And he is the one that has all of my passion and heat and fire on him. Young King hasn't let me down yet. And that's why I'm with him 10 toes. That's why he's my number one. Okay. Everybody else is kind of ad hoc, if you will, for lack of a better term. I'm taking it as it goes. Okay, they're freelancing. I'm looking at these motherfuckers like fucking freelancers right now. Okay, y'all get jobs on hand. You know what I mean? I can't really give y'all long-term contracts out this piece. You know what I mean? You guys are like jobs for hire for me at this point. Until you show and prove. It's not that I want to withhold. You know what I'm saying? The credence or the accreditation that I feel like would merit you and garner you my respect, but that you have to work to earn it, right? Because young King Devin cannot be the only one out here doing all the heavy lifting, as many of us have said, time and time again. So that's just my position on it. But I think I'll end it here, beautiful people, unless you guys have any questions for me or let me see if there was any other comments I wanted to touch into. Oh, the King David. The King David says, I want to see Boots beat Fundora. Me too. I would love to see that. Absolutely love to see that. 1000% love to see that. Fundora had the hand injury. So I don't know how long it's going to take him to recover. But I think that, what is this, October? Boots had his fight in October. I think that by fucking January, the latest, Boots should be in there ready to fight again. Let's say January, February or whatever. Hopefully Fundora is a name that he can get next. Like I said, to get his strap. I don't know if they're going to try to reschedule that fight. That obviously just got postponed because of the hand injury or whatever have you. But if that fight doesn't get remade, I would love to see Boots and Fundora go at it next for sure. Definitely a tough fight. But like I said, all of these people are up. It's up for everybody. You know what I mean? Go ahead and go get Abbas the fuck out of there. You know what I'm saying? Go on and get Bakaram. Bakaram ain't had no goddamn fight lined up. I wouldn't be surprised if he ain't have no fight lined up come goddamn January. You know what I mean? Get his ass the fuck out of here. How about you piece him up, line him up, zip him the fuck up, and get him out of here? Get these people out of here. I don't want to see no other goddamn lima beans, no goddamn pinto beans, no goddamn red beans and rice. I don't want to see no goddamn anything close to that for this man coming up next. I ain't want to see it now. I ain't want to see it, it last year. I'm tired of that shit. Let's get to work. And I think that all of the scrutiny is going to be even more heavy on the back of Boots Ennis coming off of this fight. The only game that this man had to me was a heavier level and a more severe level of scrutiny from the boxing public, because people are absolutely fed up. And, we are tired of we're not even given crumbs with this fight. That shit was fucking, I don't know what the fuck it was. It wasn't even breadcrumbs. It's crazy work. So, whatever he has in store in the coming months or whatever have you, let's say as we get to the new year, that'd be worthwhile, because he is going to be in the absolute trash bin if we don't see, something of worth materialize for that young man as far as his level of competition. It's way, way overdue. You know what I mean? And the King David agrees with me. Salute to the King David. And peace to my beautiful sister Cammie. Salute to my king. BFTB, who joined earlier. Where is he? Let me put the king on the screen. Salute to my beautiful king. Peace to the king, Stephen X. My beautiful sister Cammie. My twin, Daryl Anderson. The beautiful mama love, Jaquila Fields, with her big love. Right? Oh, hold on. We have somebody named Jay Hugh. He says, that's the type bull people say when they playing with your money. You mean about what Eddie Hearns was saying? Child. Peace to the brothers and sisters who came in. I definitely appreciate all of you, all of the people I couldn't name. The King, Stephen X, of course, oh my goodness. I was about to pass off with the king here for boxing. Salute to you, king. Big salute. He says, Boots is in desperate need of some image rehabilitation. A belt would be great, but Boots equally needs a big name, belt, or no belt. Boots can do both, okay? Because Fundora is a name in the division, with a belt. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, the fight with a somebody with no name, which is the only person that is like that, of that particular type of name and stature, but has no belt, is Virgil Ortiz. He could absolutely have that. He can still have the Virgil Ortiz fight. I just think that fight will be even more premier and of more significance if something were on the line. No sense in going there goddamn dry. You know what I mean? I don't know who could disagree with that. You know what I'm saying? So get the fight made, most definitely. You know what I'm saying? But the way to really, really make a claim, I mean, it's the same reason why people accredited Bud Crawford for getting up there and fighting a goddamn nobody, right? But he was given a pardon for his entrance up until the 154 division. Why? Why was he given the pardon? Why was Bud Crawford given the pardon, brothers and sisters? Nobody know who the fuck Madrimov was when he fought him. But what the excuse was that he was champion. That's what allotted, the permission, for us to be so accepting of him fighting Madrimov, Bud Crawford, when he did. Because Madrimov had a strap. He had something to offer, right? So that the strap is always going to be significant. Even though Virgil has a name, unlike Madrimov, it is the strap that gives you the certification. It's the strap. I think that they work in tandem with each other. If he could have both of them, great. But that's why I'm positing, the notion that put the belt on the table and fight Virgil Ortiz so that he can go get a strap so that when he meets Virgil Ortiz in the ring, it'll be that much more viable and promising. You know what I'm saying? Salute to the king here for boxing. Always 10 toes with the love, by the way. Peace to the King Cypher. If I didn't see you earlier, salute to you. He said, great stream. This was a banger. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. You guys, make sure you guys hit the like button on your way out. Definitely share the content if you guys were feeling me today. Oh, salute to the King Mark. There's a lot of people that I didn't get to see because I was going on and on. I was a very passionate live for me. Salute to the King G Tatted. I see you. Salute to all the brothers and sisters that I can name. Even if I didn't mention you, just know that I see you and I appreciate your presence. I'm going to end it here, brothers and sisters. I don't want to hold you guys for too much longer. Thank you so much for rocking with me 10 toes. Yes. And I cannot wait until we meet again. Keep in touch with me in the community page. You guys know I like to talk to you there. Okay. And I'm working on a couple of things on how to build with you guys. As far as my members are concerned, that'll be strictly and only and solely for my members. So definitely consider becoming a member if you have not already, because I got some things planned for us and just us. So keep in touch with me, you guys, and I will see you on the next one. Peace and infinite blessings.